Hello, BookTube. Well, I have another batch of mail to go through with you on a Tuesday that is so loud and so interruption prone that I don't know what's going to come next. Fortunately, I have armed myself with an essential prop. This is from The Interrupting Chicken and the Elephant of Surprise. I have been dealing all day long with the Elephant of Surprise. Now I'm ready. so let us see this next batch, see if we can get through it without any kind of noise or interruption. That would be great. I've been gone for a long time. It'd be nice if the world would let us, reunite in peace. Okay, all right. This is a finished copy. November. Okay, we've seen this already. This is Michael Kulikowski. This is The Tragedy of Empire, from Constantine to the destruction of Roman Italy. So late Western Roman history. It begins in the late 4th century with the reign of Julian the Apostate, and it takes readers to the final years of the Western Roman Empire in the end of the 6th century. I think we saw this before. I talked about it. I have had a copy, and I sent out one copy to someone who just jumped up, one of you, who just jumped up and down with joy at the mere thought of getting a copy, so how could I not do that? But now I have a finished copy, and that's good because I haven't read it. I didn't read the copy that I went out, so... Okay, so we're off to a fine start. Roman history, not just nonfiction, but history, and not just history, but Roman history. Fantastic. Let's see what this next one is. Okay. All right, this is a December release from Bloomsbury. This is by Frank Dikötter, and it's How to Be a Dictator, the Cult of Personality in the 20th Century. And it was just, an odds-on flip of the coin as to which of the two figures would be on this cover. There would only be two, and you know what the other one is. In this case, it happens to be North Korea. But for the very first time in my entire life, the other immediate answer, the other immediate visual choice for a cover with a book like this, with a title like this, would be an easily recognizable portrait of the President of the United States. That's not easy, I'm sure. Actually, let's take a little look at the index, shall we? I am sure that the President of the United States, on a book about dictatorship, is going to be amply represented. Oh, wow. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Trump is not mentioned once. I find that hard to believe, but that's great. Because I have not read this. And this is a December book. Let's see here. December 3rd is the date on it. No dictator can rule through fear and violence alone. Naked power can be grabbed and held temporarily, but it never suffices in the long term. In the 20th century, as new technologies allow leaders to place their image and voice directly into their citizens' homes, a new phenomenon appeared where dictators exploited the cult of personality to achieve the illusion of popular approval without ever having to resort to elections. Okay, all right. It is going to be genuinely disorienting to read a book like this that does not mention Donald Trump. I find it hard to believe. The index is probably for the bulk of the book. It probably doesn't cover the author's preface or introduction. But one way or another, I'm eager, and it's December, so it's on my docket. As we finish out the year, can you believe that? November is just around the corner. In no time at all, the year will be over. Let's see here. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. Okay, this is from the folks at Harvard University Press. This has got to be soon. Yes, this is a November release. This is by David Marsh, and it is Giannozzo Manetti, The Life of a Florentine Humanist. How wonderful is that? And all of this is nonfiction. That's great. A celebrated orator, historian, philosopher, and statesman, Manetti was one of the most remarkable figures of the Italian Renaissance. I think we've seen his work, right, in Harvard University's I Tatti library. I believe we've seen some of his work. I know they've done some of it. The son of a wealthy Florentine merchant, he was active in public life in Florentine Republic and embraced the new humanist scholarship of the Quattrocento. Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, they go on to talk about his work. You're not going to know anything about Manetti, unfortunately, but I do. And I feel certain that if I dig around in the darkest depths of Mordor, I will find I Tatti volumes of his work. in new, sometimes unprecedented English language translations. That's amazing. Uh, Now this is biography as well. Great. Okay. All right. 2019 biography. Good Lord, people. I am compiling my list. I'm finalizing my list. You can't keep hitting me with biographies. Let's see. Let's see what it is. Sooner or later, we're bound to hit fiction. We can't do nonfiction for the whole time. No, that's more nonfiction. Okay, great. Wow. Okay, some of you, I don't know, maybe some of you are old enough to remember this. This is by Greg King and Penny Wilson, and it is called The Last Voyage of the Andrea Doria. The sinking of the world's most glamorous ship. And this comes out in April. The story about a dream of bringing Italian culture to America, only to have it turn to a nightmare of shocking heartbreak. In 1956, the Italian ocean liner Andrea Doria departed for what would turn out to be its last ocean crossing when it was struck by a Swedish vessel off the coast of Nantucket. It was only a matter of time before the glorious masterpiece was on the sea floor, and this was in the modern era with ships that have radar and all sorts of location tracking devices and have telecommunications and whatnot. It still happened. And a number of people died. I forget, it was fewer than 100, but it was still 50 lives. 50 people died. And according to this pub sheet, her loss signaled the end of the golden era of ocean liner travel. Wow, okay. Well, it's on my mind because I'm reading Gareth Russell's new book, The Ship of Dreams, about the Titanic. It's on my mind, but that's great. I won't be reading it, of course, because it's an April book. I'd like to write about it when the time comes. For somebody, we shall see. But we are straight flush of nonfiction here. Let's keep going. This mail haul ends with a fairly sizable box. Could be one big thing. If there's one big thing, I know what I want it to be, or a number of little things. Oh, fantastic! Oh, great! All right, this is from the folks at Europa Editions. Oh boy, I have heard about this book. This is by Philippe Lancôme. This is Disturbance. He was in the Charlie Hebdo newsroom when two gunmen opened fire, and he was wounded, and he lived. And this is his book. And Europa, bless their hearts, have done a translation of it. The author is a journalist, an author, and a weekly contributor to Charlie Hebdo, who was gravely wounded in the attack. This intense life experience upends his relationship to the world, to writing, to reading, to love, and to friendship. As he attempts to reconstruct his life on the page, he rereads Proust, Thomas Mann, Kafka, and others in search of guidance. Wow. Okay, fantastic. This comes out in February of the new year. Oh, no, this comes out in mid-November. I could read this right away, and will. Fantastic. So this is from the... Boy, this translation happened right away. This was 2018. Okay, once again, this is like the third or fourth time in a row that this has happened. Once again, there has been a title change from the French to the English. And I don't understand it. I understand title changes. I swear I do. But I don't understand them when they come like this, when they make it worse. Disturbance. That is so bland. That is so anodyne and boring. And the original title in French is not. The original title in French is emotional. How odd. Why would the translator do that? Who is the translator here? Not that I'm trying to blame anybody. The translator is Stephen Rendell. No idea if that was his choice. That might not have been his call. That might have been Europa, some editor up the line. That is strange. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't totally matter. I wish. I mean, this is a lovely edition. So, and it's a hardcover, which Europa doesn't always do. So I wish. The reason that kind of thing bothers me is the chance that it was the translator, that the editors had no oversee in the matter, and that the translator decided to do that. It is in this case obviously a bad decision. The French title means scrap or shred of some kind or other, and it has resonances with torn cloth, with torn flesh. it's a much better title. It's just objectively better. No one could look at the bland word like disturbance, which, could be a kid yelling at the mall, and think that those two things are the same. And the thing that bothers me about it, it's a small thing, but the thing that bothers me about it is if it was the translator's choice, then what other choices did the translator make in the course of the book that I will not like or that I will not trust? But we shall see. It goes right to the head of the list. Wow. So Charlie Hebdo and the Galapagos Islands are now at the head of the list. Okay. What is this? Is this a paperback release? Okay, well, it's going to be a paperback original in mid-November. We've seen a couple, at least one of these before. This is by M.L. Longworth, a Provençal mystery. These are mysteries set in Provençal, and this is A Noel Killing. Look at that cover. Isn't that beautiful? Is that a photo? No, it's an art program overlay of a photo. Very nice. Fantastic. Okay, well, what have we got here? Antoine Verlac, examining magistrate for the beautiful town in Provence, doesn't have fond memories of Christmas. In addition to having a complicated family history with the holiday, he is also bombarded with the infiltration of tourists to the town he loves, who buy tacky trinkets from the vendors on his beloved boulevards. His wife and partner is determined to make this Christmas a joyful one, full of new memories, beginning with a carol sung at the town's cathedral. How better to begin new traditions than with a beautiful service in a packed church? Because people don't know they're in a mystery novel. But just as the holiday cheer is in full swing, a man drops to the floor, poisoned. All right, and then we're off to the races, or whatever the French phrase is. Fantastic. Okay. So this is a November murder mystery. Not many of those. I will put it on the November pile. As you can see, the November pile over my shoulder, it is slightly domesticated. I've been going through it and making just realistic plans about what I can and cannot do. What you see before you is still not realistic. But let's see what this next one is. Oh my. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, well, this next one is going to be a 2020 release, but not for me. It's going to be for my financial and business-related correspondent for Open Letters Review, David Murphy. Who doesn't seem to make many videos anymore, but he is still alive and kicking. And I have a pile of books to send him, and then I got sick. I didn't send anything to anybody. And I was communicable sick. It wasn't that I had a bad allergy and was feeling miserable. It was that I was worried that if I had my young weightlifters over, that I would infect them. So I didn't have them over even to take marching orders to mail stuff. I just blubbered in solitude. But now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I will try a mail run tomorrow and see if I can start clearing off that pile. But this is Deaths of Despair and the Future of Capitalism by Anne Case and Angus Deaton. Since they first discovered the shocking rise of deaths by suicide, drug overdose, and alcoholism in middle-aged white Americans and coined the term deaths of despair, these two economists, and it says that Angus Deaton won the Nobel Prize, and their dramatic discoveries have had a profound influence on domestic and international news. Never heard of them before. In this book, they at last bring their findings together in one authoritative, compelling narrative, show how the problem could still become much worse, and blame this era-defining epidemic on an economy run wild and a disgraceful healthcare system, all through a devastating critique of capitalism. I get the impression that David Murphy doesn't like devastating critiques of capitalism. But one way or another, I'm going to send this winging out to him, see what he makes of it. And that's March. Okay. And then we get to the box. And so far, I have not needed this. So maybe it just being nearby is more than enough. Let's see what this last one is. God almighty. A couple of days ago, I wouldn't have had the strength to do this. Even sitting up felt like some sort of torture. Now, I know exactly what I want this to be, but I think we're too early for this. So let's see what this is. Okay, all right. Okay, Well, this isn't what I wanted it to be, but it is something I didn't know was coming that has now bumped everything off. Just rudely bumped everything off. I do not believe that I am even seeing this. Okay. This is huge, first of all. It is 700 pages. It's beautiful, and it's in an austere way. Okay. All right. This is... I did not know this was coming. This is a late November release. This is Magic and the Dignity of Man. Pico della Mirandola and his oration in modern memory. We run into a head scratcher right away because Pico della Mirandola is not remembered. There is no modern memory of his oration or anything else that he did. We're right back to the Italian Renaissance, right where we started. Only a much bigger figure and a much more interesting figure, and someone about whom I have read quite a bit. I did not know there was an enormous book like this coming out. What is this? This is by Brian Copenhaver. That sounds awful familiar. His name sounds awful familiar. I might have seen a book of his. I'm not sure that I reviewed it or read it. Well, anyway, what do we got here? Okay. Pico died in 1494 at the age of 31. During his brief and extraordinary life, he invented Christian Kabbalah in a book that was banned by the Catholic Church after he offered to debate his ideas on religion and philosophy with anyone who challenged him. That might be Brian Copenhaver. I think I might have read a book of his on magic. This might be a specialty of his. That's ringing a bell. Let's see here. Today, he's best known for a short speech, the Oration on the Dignity of Man, written in 1486 but never delivered. Sometimes called the Manifesto of the Renaissance, this text has been regarded as the foundation on humanism and a triumph of secular rationality over medieval skepticism or mysticism. And Brian Copenhaver upends our understanding of Pico's masterwork by re-examining this key document of modernity. An eminent historian of philosophy, Copenhaver shows that the oration is not about human dignity. In fact, Pico never wrote an oration on the dignity of man and never heard of that title. Instead, he promoted ascetic mysticism, insisting that Christians need help from Jews to find the path to heaven, a journey whose final stages are magical and Kabbalah. I'm ready. It was only a buzzer, though. We can go on. Through a rigorous philosophical reading of this much-studied text, Copenhaver transforms the history of the idea of dignity and reveals how Pico came to be misunderstood over the course of 5 centuries. OMG. So, of course, number one question is the oration reproduced in this book? Is it discussed? Fine. But is it also reproduced? So you can just, is it sort of quarantined so that you can read it apart from, let's see, it is. It is reproduced. Thank God. Oh, this is, oh my God. Oh my God. Savonarola, Ficino. Oh my. Oh my. Well, okay. All right, Steve's a little verklempt. This comes out in late November. This will be in your bookstores. It won't be in your bookstores. It'll be out in late November as a $55 hardcover. And I am going to read it about one, fittingly enough, picosecond after I finish this video. Oh. So what was it? Who was the other one? How to Be a Dictator, Gianozzo Manetti, the Charlie Hebdo book, a book on tortoises on the Galapagos Islands. All of it gets shoved aside for the last book that we hit of all. Magic and the Dignity of Man. Look at that cover. Oh my. Okay. All right. So our last book for today was a 700-page Renaissance study. Okay, so did not know that was coming. My night is now done. So we have this. Oh my. Then we have Deaths of Despair, about how mean David Murphy is. Basically, that's what this book amounts to, is how mean David Murphy is. Then we have a Noel killing, murder mystery. We have Disturbance. Very glad that this is translated into English. Fantastic. Much discussed book about a guy who survived the Charlie Hebdo massacre. Then the last voyage of the Andrea Doria. Some of you will remember, maybe, the Andrea Doria going down off the coast of Massachusetts. And let's see here. This is Giannozzo Manetti. So, you know, these things really ought to be together. This is another Italian Renaissance book. So very, very nice. Then How to Be a Dictator. Study of 20th century charisma. And finally, The Tragedy of Empire. Accessible Harvard University book on an unusual stretch of Roman history. Usually the popular history books, even university press books, don't go as far as Julian the Apostate. They usually don't, because the names don't have any recognition, stories get a little convoluted, sources are a little more recondite. So it's great to see, and you know, I see it. I see it in the back of the class, urgently waving its hands. But my soul is now pledged to Pico, so I will be toddling off now to do, I would say, probably 10 hours of reading. No, that's not true. I have writing to do today, and I have a couple more videos that I want to do to reacquaint you with my face. But I know what I'm reading all night long. This is the first night in probably, I don't even know, 5 nights that I will be able to read all night long without misery. And I now know what I'm going to be reading, so great. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.